The opinions expressed on Plastic Fantastic are intended for educational and informational purposes only and are not meant as a diagnosis, treatment, or substitute for professional medical advice. The mention of any product, treatment, or procedure on the show does not constitute an endorsement or recommendation and is purely for the information and education of the public.
Welcome to Plastic Fantastic, a weekly show dedicated to the latest in plastic surgery, aesthetics, beauty, and wellness. Now, here are your hosts, board-certified surgeons Dr. Robert Silich and Dr. Olivia Hutchinson.
Good morning.
Good afternoon.
Good evening.
And good morrow.
To the listener.
And the other listeners.
On His Majesty's Internet. Welcome.
His Majesty's Secret Service.
Yeah, that has to change now.
And not so Secret Service.
Welcome to Plastic Fantastic.
Another fascinating, riveting, and interesting episode.
I'm ready now.
Where we are here to debunk, demystify, and educate. Woohoo!
DDE.
We just
good.
had our national meeting where people were educated.
I feel like
apparently.
every week you say that. Every week we start out, you're like, we just finished our meeting. I'm like, where were you? What meeting was this that I missed?
It just seems like every
Did you go?
week there's something else. And there's another one coming up, by the way.
You didn't go,
the
did you?
the regional
didn't
one.
go.
I'm on a need-to-know basis only
You didn't
with
go, so don't try and make me feel bad that I don't know about it. I guess you're going to say,
Can
well,
we-
at least I knew we had one.
Can we at least
Touche.
talk about the fact that we are halfway through November, which means that we have 6 weeks left before the end of the year, and 2023
What do they always say? How many
rolls
shopping
around.
days left before Christmas?
I don't know. Who's counting? And there's an early Black Friday. Have you seen this? This is where we're educating the public.
What is it, early Thursday?
Early Black Friday means you start now. You don't have to wait
Oh,
till
really?
Yes,
The sales are going on right now.
apparently.
Got to get out there.
What's Black Friday? The Friday after Thanksgiving, right?
Yeah.
So
And then
why-
there's Cyber Monday, remember? That's
Yes.
a new thing.
I don't want to talk about all the data out there.
What date are we talking about?
The expectations for shopping season, right? I mean,
Is
they
it going to
always
be
have-
like the expectations for the election?
They project things.
Because
Now, see?
I got to say, on either side of the aisle, I don't care how you vote, it's all bull. Give me a break. Like,
It's all nonsense.
they were like,
They're all talking out of their.
I mean, come on. Even the Democrats.
do we know, by the way? Because
Now, we still don't know at time of
It's like-
recording, by the way. Even
It's
the,
going
so
to
if
be
you're a Democrat
the
or
2024
Republican,
elections before we know what happened in 2022.
you have to look at it. They were wrong on both sides. The Democrats were sweating it. The Republicans were high-fiving each other. Look what happened.
The red wave that never was.
By the way, there's nothing now.
a
It's
drip.
not like Democrats really won. Republicans certainly didn't win.
Well, Georgia, I think, is still
But
out
it's
there, right?
kinda
Because we're going
like-
to a runoff. Don't you feel you learned so much more about the political system, though?
not, and not in a good way. How bad it is. Yeah, it's horrible. And you're like, wait, we have that?
Yeah, the political
Somebody,
system.
yeah. It's been a big buzz phrase lately where people say we don't actually live in a
Democracy?
right, not in the philosophical sense, because of course we do philosophically, but I mean it's actually a constitutional republic, I think is the phrase. Have you
Fiasco?
seen this lately? Well, it is a fiasco. Have you seen this lately? A
No,
lot of
I
the
try
talking
not to.
heads have been saying, well, we don't actually have
It's not representative government?
Right.
Isn't that what they say about D.C., taxation without representation?
well, the electoral college is not
Here
technically.
we go. Now we have to
right?
get to the electoral
Anyway, let's
college.
get off this. Let's get on rock and roll again.
Anyway, because we don't know what's happening. Anyway.
Food. You watching The Crown? That's back.
No, I've heard it's fantastic.
Really?
I have to go. Yeah. Haven't you heard that? No? I heard it's
Mixed
still-
reviews, as they like to say.
Ooh. I did watch a rather terrible movie, which was
Do tell.
unfortunately on the now because I'm going to have to make some commentary about how I disagree with the recommendations from the New York Times critic or critics.
It's probably the same guy that predicted the red wave.
They're all sitting in the same room. Is it like monkeys throwing darts at the? Remember that when they had? I think it was Goldman Sachs analyst or a legit investment bank
Right.
against simians. Who are spinning a wheel or throwing darts.
Speaking
It
of
was-
simians, man, I am following this thing on Instagram now called Hanging with Dr. Z.
Oh no, here we go. Because
which
I'm not
is
going to know.
Dr. Zaius from the original franchise. And I'm telling you,
I haven't seen that one either.
put all your clients on it, as they said in Wall Street. Bud Fox.
When did-
It's hilarious.
So this is one of those rare instances where strange ways in which Instagram works, where they follow or analyze everything that you do, and then they spit things at you.
Okay, maybe.
and see what sticks. And
Maybe.
this
I don't
one
know.
did.
All I know is I'm going down the search page, and of course I see picture of Dr. Zaius.
Oh, is that how you did it?
Yeah, and
oh,
I'm
I
like,
thought it
oh,
popped
look at
up
him.
on your Instagram.
Well, it
like,
kind of did because that stuff pops up. Oh, cool. Planet of the Apes.
Look what popped
so, of
up.
course, I click on it, but it's not really the Planet of the Apes. What it is it's a current day
An
comedian
impersonation.
who he's got it down perfect. The makeup, the voice, everything.
Do you think he worked on the set? Do you think he has like an
No,
official...
because the movie came out in 1968. So
No, but they had a remake of it.
yeah, but
with...
this is the character from the 1968 movie.
Oh,
Like
I
if
see.
you watch the original Planet of
I
the
guess
Apes,
I have to add that to
and
my
you
list.
watch this guy, I don't even want to talk about that. The fact that you haven't seen that, we're going to get to that in a minute. And
It's
this
monkeys.
guy is playing him. It's spectacular.
Okay, so but it's funny, you said.
Beyond.
So what does
But,
he make fun of?
Listener, I have to warn you.
Uh-oh.
It is
Inappropriate?
incredibly inappropriate.
Risque?
Yeah,
Is he
and
in a teddy?
it's not so much culturally, but it's certainly
Sexually?
socially inappropriate now, because it's basically a guy who is playing a simian actor, as he calls himself.
From the 1960s?
Right, and 70s. So it's a little bit of that Austin Powers thing where he like says things that are just totally out of, can't really say that anymore, but you will laugh your head off. It is so good. It's
Just
called Hanging with Dr. Z. You should not watch this because I think you need to see
The movie.
Planet of the
Now,
Apes.
was the original Planet of the Apes just one, or were there sequels to it also?
The fact that you're asking me that question is getting under my collar right now.
we're going to move
It's
away
making my
from
monkey
that.
hair curl.
We're going to tell our listeners where they can send us information about
All
movies.
right, so I'll just get to it quickly. I think there's
Hold
three.
on, let me just say our
or
email
4.
address. Can I just put that out there?
Oh, yeah, go
Okay,
ahead.
plasticfantasticshow@gmail.com.
And you're listening to Plastic Fantastic with Dr. Olivia Hutchinson.
And Dr. Robert Sillage.
Back to the Planet of the Apes.
So 3, you said?
I think there's 3 in the original. It was
I want to
Planet
make
of the
sure I
Apes,
have enough
Beneath
time.
the Planet of the Apes, and then Escape from the Planet of the Apes.
Okay.
And then Nothing. And then there was a TV series. And then Tim
With the
Burton.
same characters?
Yeah, I think so. And then Tim Burton did one.
Which was animated, or like those things,
Regular.
like the Nightmare Before Christmas? Is
No,
it
and then the reboot, which is the really good one. The
Mark
guy,
Wahlberg? What does it have in it?
he might have been, yeah. But the main thing is that the
Brad Pitt?
if you
just-
let me finish, I'll give you the big name, for God's sake. Do you know who Andy Serkis is? He's the guy that does all of that animation stuff, like in Lord of the Rings. He plays that little creature, Gollum. Yeah, I'm making a blank face right now. Anyway, he plays the lead ape. And they do it in a very interesting way. It's computer generated, but there's really an actor doing it.
Oh, like Avatar kind of stuff?
Yeah, kind of. I think it's maybe the same technology. Anyway, whatever. I'm on Planet of the
Okay.
Apes right now.
All right.
I'm on a Planet
So
of the
which one
Apes
should I
swing.
start with? I should start with
The
the
original.
one,
Chuck
1968.
Heston. So cool, man.
Yes.
So
Chuck,
cool. Apparently he likes to be known as Chuck, not Charlton.
R.I.P. though.
That's
at this
showbiz
point,
lingo.
so-
From his dead cold hand. That was his big line. Remember that with the NRA?
No.
So he was head of the NRA, I guess,
Yes, I
in
do
his later
remember that.
years. Big Republican.
But did he
big
play? Was he like
right-winger.
Clint Eastwood, where he was an actor that played that part, and then he became
No,
one?
he was just Chuck Heston.
So how did
And
he become involved with you?
He went to the convention and he holds up a rifle. And his big line was he would go, "From my dead cold hand." And that just kept getting repeated all the time. And that was, no one's going to take Chuck's gun away.
Oh, I see. Okay. That's
Anyway,
good. Well,
whatever.
you need to have a spokesman that people recognize. So, okay, so I'm going to add that to my list. Back to The Crown. I watched the first 2 seasons. And
Oh,
then
man, you're way behind.
I
This is
know.
number 5.
I know.
Oh, okay.
I have a lot of catching up to do because I'm reading a lot of plastic surgery literature.
And going to the meetings, apparently. While this idiot is home
And
watching Planet of
discussing
the
the
Apes and Dr. Zayas on Instagram.
But you do learn a lot from social media. For example, let's bring it back to plastic surgery. One of the things that I saw is, well, this is how the public generally finds out about things.
Instagram?
Yes, on Instagram.
Or
we
social
had-
media, you're saying, is how the public
Yes.
finds out about
So
things.
there was a story about breast implant illness.
Mm-hmm.
Can't remember.
It's so fascinating, the article. You don't remember it. Well, breast implant illness is in
Danica
the...
Patrick, is that her name, I think?
Oh, yeah, she is a race car driver.
Yes.
You're right.
So I'm very bad with names, much better with faces
Yeah.
and the visual. But anyway, so she claimed that...
You're better with faces and breasts, apparently.
Yes.
Can't place the face, but...
Can't place the name of the patient, which is great because you know I'm
Right.
never going to reveal anybody's name.
Right.
I'll be like,
You don't have to worry
"You
about
know that
privacy here.
person?"
Exactly.
I think she does something on TV.
That would
maybe.
be a great thing to say to a patient in the room, right? Hey, listen, if privacy's your thing, don't worry. I'm not going to remember who you are the minute I walk out of that door.
No, I'm going to remember who you are. I'm not going to remember what you do. But anyway, so
Yeah, so the race car driver, Danica Patrick.
so she apparently reported that she had breast implant illness and
Right.
that she had breast implants and she had her implants removed in order to cure herself of this BII, breast implant illness.
Did it work?
Well, according to her, it was the best
Did it?
thing she ever did.
Oh, thank God.
But here we go, because now you're going to have women who have implants who are going to say, oh, wait, I'm not feeling well. I'm just like Danica Patrick. I must have my implants removed.
So let's talk about this.
And
then.
so this is what I thought would be helpful to sort of discuss. Well, what is breast implant illness?
Okay, go for it.
And our meeting is coming up, the New York City one, this weekend. And one of the talks is going to refer to breast implant illness. And I think that people have different ideas.
Yeah.
The lay population and plastic surgeons.
And we don't want to combine the two. So there are certain things that are
never the twain shall meet.
Scientifically documented and proven, and there's an entire criteria that they have to go through to be even considered a disease. You can't just say, oh, I've got redheaded pessimist disease. You know,
if there is such a thing.
There is such a thing. But anyway, there's a criteria to have a disease. And currently, breast implant illness is not an officially recognized, defined disease for those criteria in medicine. Having said that, you and I both have lots of patients that have said they have this, and I always look at it as a diagnosis by exclusion. We don't say, oh, that's what it is, but I certainly don't ignore it and we don't dismiss it. So I've got patients that say, I think this is it. The only caveat I have with my patients that say this is I want to just really make sure before they make that decision, are they sure that it's nothing else that's going on? And usually that's the case. And that's why we say it's a diagnosis of exclusion. And the reason I was happy about the story you told me is that 2 of my patients that I've done this to, explant, remove the implants, it really didn't make a difference. And that was a little bit disheartening.
Yeah, so it really depends on the patient. There are certain things that can happen. There are known complications from breast implants related to the capsule contracture that forms around the implants when there's an abnormal healing process for that shell, which is called the capsule. And so that can lead to capsular contracture. It can cause pain and deformity of the breast. Obviously, the implants themselves can leak and rupture, and you can have different types of problems related to the capsule, which some of these problems have been in the news lately because there was an FDA announcement about squamous cell cancer that they found in the implant capsule. Again, these occur in, I would say, infinitesimally small numbers, but once the FDA decides that they're going to make this an official warning for the public, then, of course, plastic surgeons are going to be receiving a lot more phone calls and inquiries about this, and patients who are rightfully concerned about the announcement, although in actuality, when the numbers are 1 in a million for the potential to develop these types of problems, it's significantly less common than, say, having a capsular contracture. Back to breast implant illness, the problem, as you said, is that it hasn't been officially defined as a medical illness. And so there are different types of symptoms that patients report: fatigue, general malaise, systemic types of symptoms which are not particularly attributable to neurological aches and pains.
Almost every body system has been reported in it.
Yeah.
Some people focus more on GI symptoms. Both of my patients had
Headaches,
GI tract symptoms, right?
That kind of stuff.
Generalized malaise, musculoskeletal problems, neurologic.
Which can also come from any number of immune-mediated diseases. And
or
of
just
course,
a bad day. The Irish flu.
As opposed to immune-mediated diseases, which were looked at scientifically, disproven that there was any kind of increased risk of that, like scleroderma or rheumatoid arthritis, related to having breast implants. Breast implant illness is sort of this very nebulous catch-all phrase, but the public now sort of seems to think that it is truly an entity that has a diagnosis and hence a treatment, and we're just not there yet. So just wanted to put that out there because we are plastic surgeons and we do keep up with the literature, even the literature that is in the lay press when it comes to celebrities.
And there's a practical reason for this too also. Insurance companies are not going to reimburse any kind of medical care for something that is not
there's no diagnosis
for
specifically
recognized as a diagnostic disease. I mean, you can probably fight that and work on it, but until it's really been investigated and done. We went through this once before, by the way, with silicone gel implants back in the 90s.
And the moratorium. And
they were banned for about 10 years, about a decade.
And accusations or claims that were unsubstantiated. Now, having said that, those implants had not been studied according to the usual process that goes into evaluating potential risks of prostheses, the way that we usually go through it. So that was a completely different story. The current implants that were introduced after the moratorium keep getting improved upon, totally different situation. We do have studies and tracking information and long-term outcome evaluations of these implants. We're going to take a short break. You're listening to Plastic Fantastic with Dr. Robert Silich.
And Dr. Olivia Hutchinson. What number show is this, by the way? We didn't do that at the outset.
Oh, my goodness.
Is it 100?
Check. No, we're not quite there yet. 91.
We'll be right back.
This is Plastic Fantastic with Dr. Robert Silich and Dr. Olivia Hutchinson.
Let's face it, life looks a little different. During these times, we're doing our best to keep our minds and bodies strong. And getting a flu shot helps us stay healthy, so we don't miss out on what matters. Like having game night at home. Yeah, can't do that while sick with the flu. Now imagine family movie night that your daughter can't live without. Well, that's ruined. And don't forget your uncle's socially distanced cookout. See? That's why it's important to be at our strongest. Every year, millions of people in the U.S. get the flu. Especially now, no one has time to miss out on moments that matter. So get your flu shot. Find out more at getmyflushot.org.
Today, more than 6 million Americans are living with Alzheimer's, and more than 11 million family members and friends serve as their caregivers. While researchers are working tirelessly to end Alzheimer's and all other dementia, the number of people living with Alzheimer's is expected to more than double by 2050. The toll of the disease is monumental, and its devastation affects family, friends, and especially caregivers. No one should face Alzheimer's and dementia by themselves. If you or someone you know is struggling to provide care to a loved one, please share this message. You are not alone. Free help and resources are available 24/7. To talk with an expert and obtain disease-related information, care and support services, call 800-272-3900 or visit the Alzheimer's Association website at alz.org. You are not alone.
Now, back to Plastic Fantastic with Dr. Robert Silich and Dr. Olivia Hutchinson. Email plasticfantasticshow@gmail.com.
Welcome back to Plastic Fantastic with Dr. Olivia Hutchinson.
And Dr. Robert Silich.
'Tis the season.
Almost.
'Tis almost the season.
Well, that's the name of the show. But what season is it? We're the interim season.
Festivus. Right?
Festivus
Wasn't
of everything.
that from Seinfeld?
So I did see, I think it was last week already, early November, probably within a week after Halloween, somebody had already decorated their house with all sorts of Christmas decorations. There was a nutcracker, wreaths.
This was during Halloween?
Within a week, though.
Yeah,
So they had not waited very long.
My tree's up.
And also, we had that spat of very nice weather that it felt like we were in August or whatever, or May.
That's a bummer for Halloween. For Christmas decorations.
For Christmas. No, for Halloween it was great.
Yeah.
For the kids running around and stuff.
But what's funny is that's such a Northeast thing because...
What, decorations?
No, the weather aspect of it. Because think about it. In
Global
California and in the South,
Always
big part of
warm.
the country, it's always warm during Christmas. And not to mention in other countries like, I think there's a town in the Philippines where they decorate for Christmas 10 months out of the year.
You're kidding me.
Swear to God. It's like a true...
Have you been there?
No, but I've been to Japan, but I haven't been to the Philippines as far as the Far East goes. But my point is that to many people, Christmas is always a warm weather holiday, right?
Yeah, and so there is no white Christmas.
Yeah.
This is when everybody has to pull out their records and their CDs.
Totally.
And
pretend.
Bing Crosby.
I know. Anyway, but I put my tree up. I decided I follow the British system. Right.
Really?
No, really.
The Dateline?
Well, they don't have Thanksgiving.
Or the
so
timeline,
the
not
minute
the Dateline.
that...
as soon as Halloween is
As soon as
over?
Halloween's over, maybe it's Guy Fawkes Day or something, which is somewhere in November. They then...
Maybe it's even today.
It's Christmas. Today's... No, I don't think so.
Remember the 4th of December. I thought it was
I
December.
thought it was 4th of November.
November? Oh, so we passed it.
Look at you. You even know the Guy Fawkes song.
Except I don't know the date.
Wow. That's pretty good, though. Anyway, but my point is that without the Thanksgiving to break it up, like currently, at time of recording, it's all Christmassy all over Europe, I think.
It also gets to be very busy in our office and with the plastic surgery fellowship of people out there who see patients. Usually between Thanksgiving and Christmas and New Year's, lots of people who want to take a little time off and maybe make themselves look a little bit better.
It's odd that it's busy, but you're right. It is a busy time. I always think that that's strange because, if anything, it's a really crazy time when there's a lot going on. But you're right. People give up one of the holidays to do plastic surgery. So there's a whole group that does, and it seems to me like the Thanksgiving people do it more. But then you've got that week between Christmas and New Year where everybody wants to do stuff, and
Impossible
and
because
it's
we don't
impossible
work at.
because we don't really work that week, right?
It is the 5th of November, by the way.
5th of November.
Yes. So
Nice.
you
Guy
were right
Fawkes
about that.
Day.
Now we're already on to the 15th, so we're moving at breakneck speed into the holiday season. I think New York is really fantastic when it gets to be Festivus. They get the big tree in Rockefeller Center. You have tourists
That
galore.
went up, by the way, this weekend.
Oh, really? Is that why it was so busy? We had
It was packed this week in the city. Yeah, it was. But the
Everything.
tree is up this. It's not lit
Where'd it
yet,
come from?
obviously.
Connecticut or usually Maine.
No, I think it
they
came from
bring-
somewhere in New York, believe it or not.
Really? Upstate?
Yeah.
Is there an owl in it this time?
You know,
Like
it was
last time?
closed up, so I didn't get to see it open
Haven't
yet.
seen it. Yeah.
It's
They
usually
make it-
shorter and fatter than I always think it should be.
I have to say, I really like the fact that there's so many people in the city now, downtown, away from where I live.
I love the fact that they're here, just not near me.
I went out West Village. See, I never know like where things end and where they start. I know that if you're south of Houston, you're in
Where am
Soho.
I?
But is it Tribeca? Is it meatpacking? You know, when do you transition from one
I guess there
area
are
to
real
the next?
there are real boundaries, but who
And I
knows?
saw the Hopper exhibit, which was also
Depressing.
a mob scene. Did you see it?
No.
Why depressing?
But I love, because he's depressing. I love him.
Oh.
His paintings are very sad.
They
or as
had a
they
little
say in the
video.
art world, pictures. Did you ever notice that?
Pictures?
Yeah, like people
It's not
that
a painting?
right, people that work at Sotheby's and Christie's or Bonhams or Phillips, all the big gallery houses or the
They
auction
don't call
houses.
them chef-d'oeuvre?
They call them pictures. What did you say, chef-d'oeuvre?
Yeah, masterpieces.
Oh, no, they say pictures for some weird reason. Oh, that's a fantastic picture. That
Well,
we
they
saw
had
at the
an
Institute.
interview. So in the back wall of the, I guess it's the floor that the exhibit was on, facing the windows which overlook the rooftops in Tribeca or wherever that is. Maybe it's not
That's a
Tribeca.
meatpacking district.
Meatpacking. They had some couches and then they had microphones where they were playing just the audio of an interview that he gave at some point discussing things. So you could sort of sit there and look out over, I guess, some of the types of inspirations that he would have had for some of his pictures, to use the correct lingo. And it was very interesting. And, you know, the light over there was very cool, and the late afternoon, too. So it's worth going. I wish I had seen it when it wasn't a complete mob scene, because you also don't really have a sense of what room to start with and where to go. But
The thing about Hopper, I think that's so great, is the majority of the subjects are in New York City. There's some
Yeah.
that are up in like
well,
the
this
New
was
England.
also New York, you know, Dennis Hopper. I think that was the title of the exhibit.
Right. The theme that kind of runs through so much of it is solitude and how lonely the characters are in all these, even if it's a couple. Or
Well, it's his wife,
especially
too.
if it's a couple, right. The
Sometimes he
wife
has
was, and they totally didn't have the best marriage
Relationship?
going, yeah. But she was his subject. But even when he does like that famous one of the Automat, or the really famous one, which I know is not in the show, the Nighthawks
the
one.
Nighthawks, yeah.
Everybody's kind of alone, even though they're in New York, they're around each
Right.
other. And my favorite one is that one of the movie with the usher, the woman holding the flashlight. I think it's called New York Movie. And it's the interior of one of those grand movie houses that are basically gone now, that used to be like on 42nd
Oh,
Street.
yes, of course.
And there's an usher. It's a woman, and she's holding a flashlight.
Yes.
And it's sad.
Yeah,
But they're beautiful
There's
looking.
something, you're right, there's something very nostalgic and disheartening about the solitude that's in all of these. But I really like the way he does the light. Whenever he has the light effect is really fantastic. And there's one of his wife looking out the window, and there's sort of like the hopefulness in it. It's not really completely depressing, but you definitely feel the melancholy in his paintings. And you've been listening, Plastic
Right. My God. I'm so depressed right now.
We're talking about 'tis the almost season. Come on,
Tis
we
the
gotta-
almost season.
We got to
All right.
make it
All
lighten
right,
it
so,
up a little bit.
Right. So the Christmas decorations are up, at least in my house and in Great Britain.
You are so way ahead of everybody
I am,
else.
but whatever.
I don't even get
I
my
need
tree
something to
until
cheer me up. I
the
don't
day
care.
after Thanksgiving, and I think I'm early. Where'd
You
you get
know,
your tree, by the way? Do you go out of state? Do you go out of the country
I go
to
out of
get
state.
it?
You got to. You want to know the truth?
No.
It's not. Okay, I'll lie then.
No, I'm just kidding. Yes, of course.
It's
we
not
wanna
real.
know. Oh, you have a fake tree.
I know. We don't like to use the F word on this show. At least not that F word.
Not the 4-letter F.
Come on. So here's the truth about it.
When did you switch? When did you transition
About-
to the dark side
About
of
4 years ago, and I'll tell you why. And this is the truth.
ease
This is
and
the truth.
convenience? Tell me that's what
I
it is.
was putting up 2 Christmas trees a season. How much of a loser am I?
Wait, why two?
I put
'Cause
them
one
up
died
so
and then-
early, and one would die, and I would take
Go and
the
get
whole
another?
thing down, put up a whole new one,
I see.
live trees, redecorate it, relight it, and then I said, you know what?
When was that? When did you do number 2? When did
It
the
would be
imposter come in?
probably about like 10 days or 2 weeks before Christmas, because I would have it up kind of like the way you did, around Thanksgiving weekend, like right after, probably the Saturday after after Thanksgiving, I would do it.
Right.
And then...
Because you were not one of those people who watches incessant football games
No.
all day long.
And then, honestly, if you think of like in a heated apartment or a heated house, dry, the thing is going to die. So by the time Christmas came,
You're
it
right
was
on that front.
not looking so good.
Yeah.
Right? So anyway,
And you have nieces too. Do they come over?
I don't think they know it's fake yet.
No.
So hopefully they're not listening.
I meant when you had your real one.
Oh, yeah, no, they
Do-
would come over. They loved it.
Right.
Smells great. That's the difference. But,
I know that.
So here's
but you
the
can
deal.
also buy scent, right?
Well, or you just buy really nice candles and you
Candles.
fill the house, and who cares? It's a
Diptych?
winter wonderland.
Is that the one that you like?
I don't know. There's a lot of different good ones, as long as they're like kind of Christmassy.
We are not here to endorse any particular
Although we
brand.
should, because if anybody wants to sponsor the show, go right ahead. Anyway,
You
so
can
I
reach
figured the
us.
technology must be such that fake trees have got to be okay now. And they are.
How about
They're
a
not,
hologram? That's
they're
going to
not
be
cheap.
the next step. It's going to be just imagine virtual
that's lame.
reality. Well, you know what's lame is that metaverse thing where people
Oh, man,
pretend
they're
like they
taking a
live
hit. They're
somewhere.
taking a hit on that.
Is that surprising to anyone?
I'm not surprised by it, but boy, they
Would
put
you
a,
rather
they
live-
put a lot into that. They
But-
really did.
Do you think we're still human beings? I think we still have that quality about us.
Well, remember a while back, it was maybe about 4 or 5 months ago, there was something in the paper
Definitely not.
where
Too
somebody
long
was
ago.
in the metaverse. They were using the virtual reality goggles and their avatar, whatever it was, and a crime was committed. Either a sexual assault or like sexual exposure or
What,
something
in
bad.
the virtual reality?
Yes, and this woman complained, rightly so. But is it a crime? Person whose avatar and her avatar had an interaction that was inappropriate. And I don't think it was anything bad, like it wasn't a murder, or it wasn't rape, or it wasn't something really
She lived
horrible.
to tell about it.
No, it's virtual reality.
Right.
But they were making the point of, if this thing goes, if you believe in this and you want to really make this thing a whole new
That's a
alternate...
big if, I think.
It is a big,
Right.
and that was the point of it. But she was really pushing that this was a real problem and there should be repercussions for it. I think there were. I think they like banned this guy from playing the game or having an avatar for a while or something.
Oh, I see.
I don't know.
So it was an actual person on the other side who was perpetrating whatever this
Yeah,
was.
I think it has to be, right? I think
It-
you get an avatar and, you get in there. And
Well, I would think that it's just like when you play chess with a computer. I mean, there's no person on the other side. It's just a computer. So that's
right,
why
but
I
I
was
think
wondering if that-
this one's different.
Guess who doesn't spend any time in the metaverse?
Me and you.
You and I.
I've got enough trouble in the regular verse, right? Whatever this verse is, wherever we are. The real
The
verse.
universe, the real verse.
Yeah, my God.
Well, it's a good thing you don't commit any crimes because there are actually repercussions. To
Yeah, you could
things
go,
that
well,
are-
not in New York, but everywhere else you could actually go to jail.
That
That's
was
true.
a layup. I was waiting.
That was good.
I was waiting
nice
for you to bite on
softball.
that.
That was pretty good.
I even took the subway. I was so impressed with myself.
How was it? Nerve-wracking?
It was pretty much, yeah.
Yeah.
Every moment.
I'm telling you, it's not.
It's not fun, but there's strength in numbers. So, when all the tourists are in there sort
Yeah, I
of
guess
like
that's
looking
true.
around. It's interesting how many different languages you can hear when you're walking down the street.
In New
too.
York?
And- yeah, in
Oh,
New
yeah,
York.
it's amazing.
I mean, I don't speak all of them, but I try to kind of figure out what they're...
Although you're pretty good.
I have a few. Romance languages, though. I don't do all of the other Middle Eastern ones. I have no idea. Any of the East Asian ones, I'm clueless at
I
that.
hear
I
you.
can't even start. But I'm also trying to figure out the accents when you listen to people, from the UK or from
That's
Australia, South Africa.
That's usually pretty good to get.
Yeah,
You can
yeah.
usually get
It's
those.
kind of, well, from the movies, right? I mean,
and you can
or
usually get
people
the,
that you know.
the East Asian ones too. You can usually separate Chinese, Korean, and Japanese in New York.
Languages?
And Vietnamese
Well,
and
maybe
Southeast
you can
Asia
because
too.
you've even
No,
been
I
to
think
Japan.
I think you
so-
can though. It's repetition.
I think you give me way too much credit.
Come on.
You even like the Japanese movies. We're back to movies now because that's the most important thing.
Absolutely, I'm in.
We're going to take a short break. Speaking of movies,
Really?
Yes, and we're going to get to your
Are we going to
favorite.
come back, or this is it?
We're going to come back and talk about your and my favorite topic:
Yeah.
food
'Tis the season to discuss food.
and
Good.
restaurants
Well
and,
done.
and new places that we want to go to. You're listening to the Plastic Fantastic with Dr. Robert Zelich.
And Dr. Olivia Hutchinson. We're going to take a short break and be right back.
Don't go anywhere. Plastic Fantastic will be right back.
The holidays are usually a time of togetherness and celebration. But COVID-19 will prevent many families from coming together during the holidays, and the situation is even more dire for paralyzed veterans who remain isolated. Paralyzed veterans and others with disabilities are at high risk for COVID and have been quarantined for months. The holidays could worsen their feelings of isolation, depression, and anxiety unless we deliver essential support and remind them they are not forgotten. Paralyzed Veterans of America is a lifeline for high-risk veterans that provides urgent help, food, emergency resources, and a variety of wellness programs to keep veterans connected. Help us spread holiday cheer and let our veterans know they are not alone this holiday season. Join PVA and give holiday hope to our heroes at pva.org/holidayhope.
Plastic surgery for a rejuvenated, revitalized you. This is Plastic Fantastic with Dr. Robert Silich and Dr. Olivia Hutchinson.
Welcome back to Plastic Fantastic with Dr. Olivia Hutchinson.
And Dr. Robert Silich.
This is our 91st show.
And we're going to talk about 91 different ways of drinking whiskey.
91 bottles of whiskey on the wall.
I found out that there's something called chewing whiskey. Did you hear this?
Mm-mm.
When you taste whiskey, you're supposed to do what's called a Kentucky chew. Roll it around your tongue. You start in the front, you go in the back, you go sideways. I don't know. There's some whole process.
And you're just chewing the liquid.
Well, you're not really chewing because it's not a masticatory type of process, but it is in some way so that you can increase your appreciation of the flavors. So there you have it.
You heard it here first.
That's how you educate.
And it's Kentucky because of the bourbon and the whiskey out of Kentucky?
The whiskey and bourbon, and maybe they
I don't really like that much Kentucky whiskey. It's too sweet.
What do you like? What's your favorite? The Japanese ones?
By far. They're unbelievable. But they really mimic and mirror the Scottish ones.
Aren't they difficult to find?
Right now they are, yeah. I think because the word's out that they're so great.
A supply and demand?
I don't know. And I wonder if it's the climate because, there's a lot of mountains in Japan. Part of it's cool, but a lot of it's hot, which it's not in Scotland. And I guess there's a lot of running water up in the mountains. I think that adds to it. I don't know.
Is there like a specific season that's whiskey season, whiskey tasting? Or
it's always whiskey season here, madam. I don't know. Not that I know of.
Is it like, maple syrup that you turn into...
That reminded me of something. There is something funny that happens. You ever see like old-time drinkers, a different generation? It'll be July, and somebody will say, I know it's out of season, but I'll have a scotch and soda or something.
Oh, is it out of season?
Or somebody will do the opposite, like in December. I know it's out of season, but I'll have a gin and tonic.
No, I did not know that.
Yeah.
I didn't know there was a season for any of those things.
It's the fact that that's like a thing that somebody would say, I want to have a drink with that guy.
I have noticed that there are seasonal menus now for drinks, just like there are for food. Seasonal varieties, depending on what's fresh and what you can harvest, scavenging things.
Kind of makes sense, right?
Yeah. So I was at a whiskey bar actually a few days ago, and they were like, oh, come back tomorrow. We're changing our menu. And so they were getting rid of all the summery drinks and they were going to change them into more wintry drinks. Just in time, too, because we just went from summer into winter. I think we skipped whatever autumn was supposed to happen.
There's so little spring and autumn anymore.
We're now down into the freezing cold temperatures, but it does warm you up when you have an alcoholic drink, especially something that you can savor like a whiskey drink.
That's what I tell all my patients.
Have an alcoholic
But I think
drink.
it doesn't. I think it's a false warm-up, right? I don't think that really works.
It's pretty hot when it goes down. I mean, you sort of feel your insides burning.
Feel the old burn?
It's probably all the acid. I mean, everything in moderation, right? You don't want to be overdoing it. I mean, vodka is sort of a Russian-Polish thing, right? Swedish. Isn't that where the...
Speaking of The Crown, there's a part in it in the current season.
Great. We went right back to the beginning.
You just
of the
reminded
show.
me of something. There's a whole episode devoted to Russia and Boris Yeltsin. And the Queen, I guess, met with him a few times when he was president or whatever.
Well, she probably meets with everybody, right, as a head of state?
I don't know. I guess during the height of the Cold War, they didn't. And once he came
Once
with,
we had perestroika
and glasnost, right?
Yeah.
And so she has to meet him. Apparently, he was drunk every day, and this comes up in the show like he's drunk. Well, how do you know he's drunk? Well, I don't think I was drunk too. It's this whole thing. It's really funny, and he does it with John Major, the Prime Minister, and he comes back and reports to the Queen.
Which was apparently completely apocryphal. They said that whole episode about the interaction was, and in general, that The Crown is not really based on. Well, it's based on real.
It's a stretch.
Characters.
You got to say, and you don't realize it because it's done so well.
Yeah.
But then you realize, okay,
you're not supposed to learn history from watching The
Definitely
Crown. Definitely
not. And you're looking at a scene where it's the Queen and let's say there's a lot of the Queen and William having tea together when he's like a teenager. You're like, okay, you don't know what their dialogue was, and they're making up all this stuff.
Suspend your disbelief.
But
it's just supposed to be entertaining, right?
That's right.
Yeah. So for the entertainment.
So that was the connection between The Crown, vodka, Russia,
Drinking, which we don't do on this show. And there are also lots of movies that I saw are being released. Back to the movie topic just for a short minute. I think the sequel to Knives Out is, they call it something else.
I like that. Did you like that, the original?
The original I saw. How long has it been? Has it been 2 years? It seems like it's been a really long time.
I think it's been more than that because, he has to, Daniel Craig is the lead. He always has to space in between those Bond movies that he did, which were very
And when's the
taxing.
Next Bond movie coming out? Do we know
count.
that?
We don't even know who the next Bond is.
Okay.
Plus, they killed him in the last movie, so it's like, really?
Wait, spoiler alert.
Well, it's been out enough.
Or
Too bad. If you haven't seen it by now, I'm glad I spoiled it for you.
Like me?
Exactly. Well, it goes without saying you haven't seen it. I mean, we're backed up to 1967 now with your playlist. I mean, come on.
How many movies can I put on my to-do list, on my to-watch list?
Well, you've got to make up for that lost childhood of yours where you were studying all day so you could go to Harvard, where I was sitting watching Planet of the Apes sequels.
Having a lot more fun, too.
I don't know.
Okay.
My dear grandmother once took me to a Planet of the Apes festival.
They do those things, like the Star Trek
No, it wasn't a
conventions?
convention. It was like the theater was showing... I
just
think
like non-stop
3 in a row
movies?
or 4 in a row. Yeah.
Did you do it? Did you sit in a movie?
Totally. I was
You
a
sat
kid.
in
I
there?
loved it. My poor grandmother sat with me.
Did she fall
My
asleep?
parents didn't want to do it, and she was like, "I'll do it." And so I don't know if she was asleep.
The best.
The best.
Oh my goodness, yes.
And she sat with me for, I think it was 7 or 8 hours of.
Was there a break, or was it just
apes.
continuous?
I think they take a break to go get some more popcorn or something.
Yeah, that's right.
But yeah, it was fantastic.
You can't really watch movies without popcorn, right? When would you become
You have to make it even at home. Yeah, absolutely.
a popcorn consuming nation to watch movies? All right, so back to now that we're on popcorn, we can talk about food, because it also becomes exceedingly difficult to get a reservation at a restaurant. And although I said that it's nice to see a lot of people out and about, maybe there were more people out and about this weekend because it was so nice on Saturday. And as I just found out from you, they put up the tree in Rockefeller Center. It does become really tough to get a table, especially at any decent hour. So I, unlike some people, don't like to eat at midnight. I'm usually trying to get to sleep.
But you eat kind of late, though, compared to a lot of people. You're very continental, as we say.
Continental. Well, unless we have early cases. And then they were looking at timing. And let's just have a little plug on wellness. Just another study that was released on timing of food intake and when are you doing your body a disservice by eating at the wrong time. And sure enough, lo and behold, if you eat late at night, it's a problem. And the best thing is, at least if you have a big meal late at night. So if you're going to have a big meal, it should be around lunchtime or a very early dinner. I think they said around like 4 o'clock, but who eats dinner at
4 o'clock?
I know. Physiologically,
Come on.
it's the best thing for your body. But
Wait, considering you're going to bed at what time, though? Like, isn't it related to that?
You're asking me too many questions.
Well, come on. I mean, I guess if
think
you
it's to
eat
give
dinner at
yourself-
4 and you go to bed at 7, then fine.
Well, no, you need a lot
You
more time.
need a lot more time?
Yes. So the whole thing was about your metabolism and, what happens when and how you really
There's
don't
no
want to
fun in life anymore. You see what I mean?
Absolutely. So,
Just
well,
suck the
no.
life out of it with that plug for wellness.
We are. I think, I'm the naysayer.
Let's hear it for sickness.
No, my point is that I think you get a lot of health benefits by doing things that make you happy, regardless of timing. So
Amen.
I'm going to be the devil's advocate.
And what are you adding on? Couple years, maybe?
Maybe, but if you're unhappy, who cares,
Right.
So,
Couple years?
I mean,
no.
you said that Hopper was not happy, so I think that...
Because he was eating dinner at 4 o'clock, apparently. Going to
his
bed at
wife.
7 with that
right.
miserable wife of his.
So let's talk about the fun places to
offense.
go. So downtown is still fun, I think.
In general, or 'tis the season fun?
'Tis the season and in general.
Okay.
And there are new restaurants that are opening all
I
the
wouldn't
time.
know.
So and you just don't tell people.
No, I know, and I just can't get in.
And we just talk about Manhattan all the time, but people do go to the boroughs. I think Brooklyn is the big place.
Huge.
Where a lot of people live there too.
Top
So
of the
for
food
them,
chain,
it's not
as Mike
like,
Tyson says. Yes.
what is Brooklyn? Mm-hmm. Why?
I don't know.
Oh,
He used to say that after every fight. How'd you
Oh,
feel,
I see.
champ? Brooklyn, top of the food chain.
okay.
Yeah.
Well, let's ask for recommendations. If any of our listeners have any particular place that they would like to recommend to us that maybe we haven't thought of or haven't heard of, please send us an email about your food and restaurant and drink recommendations or any other recommendations.
There is a
recommendation.
recommendation I got this weekend about Brooklyn, a place called Red Hook Tavern. Red Hook was a very rough part of Brooklyn, which I think now has been gentrified, and there's a good restaurant there.
It's had a resurrection, like so many other places, like the Meatpacking
Kind of,
District.
I
I was
guess
thinking
so.
about that. I mean, remember when Meatpacking was a no-go zone?
Down, up, and now down again.
Yeah. So send us an email with anything that crosses your mind at any point of the day or night.
That's pretty, it's a big,
Do you
it's a
like
broad
that?
net you're throwing out there.
You never know what you might catch. plasticfantasticshow@gmail.com. We will respond to everything in due course, although now with how busy everything's become in our lives, socially and professionally, it may take us a while, maybe 2023 before we get back to you. When do you do your Christmas shopping, by the way?
I already did it. Want to know what I got you?
Is that a joke?
That's a joke. I haven't
We
done
don't.
any
Oh,
of
okay.
it.
All right. Have you thought
I
about
do it like in a big one, usually.
one fell swoop?
It just hits me one day. It's either like panic or it's, oh my
because
God,
somebody says
I'm going to do
there
this
are like
right now.
66 days left to Christmas, and you're thinking, no way, I'm not going to get everything done. I think we're way below that, by the way. I think we're closer to like 40 or something because
Oh, at least.
we're
I mean, think about it.
middle of November.
Yeah.
So if you haven't done your Christmas
We gotta
shopping,
move.
especially when they say like it takes 4 to 6 weeks if you do anything that's personalized. Or
Oh, forget that.
yeah, there's no way. On the plus side, it also gets rid of a lot of gifts that you might have considered that are now no longer an option. So if you're trying to find ways to
That was
limit
the winnowing, right, of the gift selection.
the whittling away.
Winnowing.
Winnowing?
Winnowing. Winnowing.
Okay.
I think it's a farming term. The winnowing of the wheat and the crops. You've heard that.
Somehow you don't strike me as a farmer boy.
Well, you'd
I
be
think-
surprised.
I think it would
I
be
could milk
difficult.
a cow. I never milked a cow. I
Have
don't
you ever
know.
tried? Did you even do that on a
No,
field trip?
but I've
ever?
seen people, city boys like me, get out there and try and milk a cow, and it's not pretty.
How about eggnog and warm cider
Yes,
or mulled
please.
wine? You like
All
all those
three.
things?
Yes,
because
please.
those are heated up.
Totally.
You put
Well,
a little
eggnog's
spice
cold.
in. Yes, excuse me. Well, no, you can have it warm too.
Can you
though.
really?
There's some people that heat it up, and then
Wow.
they add alcohol to it too. So
Well,
I'm not sure that's goes without saying.
come on now.
They're-
Mulled wine is great because even if you don't drink it, the whole house smells great when you make it.
Yes, and it's a feast for the senses.
Sure is.
So how about favorite restaurant?
We're going to run out of stuff to
Lately?
talk to by Christmas, you know.
No, never.
New
'Cause
restaurants.
We're going to try new places every single
I'm
time.
trying to think. No, not really.
I'm going to have to try some things
I
this
cooked
weekend.
all weekend. I didn't go out.
We're going to ask our listener to come back and listen to us next week. Are we going to give like a little hint as to what it is next week?
We make it up as we go along.
Well,
Plus, we decide 30
it starts
seconds
with the
before.
capital T. Next week is
I know. Well,
that
did
week.
they already have that in Canada?
Yes, it's Columbus Day. That was a long time ago.
Wow.
So, yeah.
Did you celebrate it?
It's Columbus Day. So-
Okay. But you didn't celebrate
no.
Canadian Thanksgiving. You celebrate
No,
American
I do the
Thanksgiving.
turkey now. It's going to be a feast for the senses.
All right.
Next week, we're going to
Next
have
week is our Thanksgiving
our Thanksgiving
show.
episode and all the things that we have to be thankful for,
Mm-hmm.
all the things we're going to be looking forward to doing. Usually big, huge family get together, right? So,
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
and pointers for those of us who don't know what to do on Thanksgiving
Yep.
Day as far as cooking and
One day
easy
of thawing the
recipes.
turkey, apparently, for every 4 pounds. Did you know that?
One day of thawing,
If you buy frozen
if you
turkey.
buy frozen, yes. Hopefully they'll have enough turkeys. When did they have a shortage? I think that was last year, right? They had a shortage of turkeys.
Yeah. What's amazing is you could get your turkey on Amazon. Frozen.
Well, there's the grocery now, Whole Foods, right? They're together.
Yeah, but it's amazing.
The conglomerate, it
Like,
just gets bigger
you
and
used to
bigger.
have to stand online at the supermarket or the butcher or whatever. Now you could just
We're going to talk about all those things,
it on your
all the
phone.
options, how
All
to
right.
make your life simpler
turkey time.
and happy. Been listening.
Is
to
that
the-
it?
That's it. That's 3
God, I
segments.
thought you'd never shut up. All right. Just kidding. You've been listening to Plastic Fantastic with Dr. Olivia Hutchinson.
See, I can be quiet.
Oh, God. All right. And I'm Dr. Rob Silich.
And you've been listening to
There
Plastic
you go. Yeah,
Fantastic.
there she
And
is.
next week will be Dr. Robert Silich going solo.
Oh, come on. I've got nothing to say. Nothing to bounce off the wall.
All the things we are thankful for. Thank you for listening. Have a great week, and we'll be back next week.
You've been listening to Plastic Fantastic with Dr. Robert Silich and Dr. Olivia Hutchinson. Produced by Mike Scheck. This is Bill Eugene speaking. Got a question? Email plasticfantasticshow@gmail.com. And be sure to listen right here every week for another episode of Plastic Fantastic with Dr. Robert Silich and Dr. Olivia Hutchinson.